Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of April 14th be opened at 6 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, and the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Atikameksheng Anishinaabe. We also wish to recognize our neighboring community of Doki's First Nation. While we meet today, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous people and their culture. Councillor Lachance sends his regrets. He will not be attending tonight. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Councillor Loftus and Councillor Laframboise.
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor Laframboise, be it resolved that the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment held April 14, 2026 be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, Councillor
None, Your Worship.
Councillor Loftus,
None, Your Worship.
Councillor Poitier,
None, Your Worship.
and none for myself. Okay. So this evening, there is a public hearing scheduled for two proposed minor variances. Application number A/02/26/SC, Keith and Christine Bona, and application number A/03/26/SC, Greg and Lisa Turner. The Committee of Adjustment will hold a public hearing to decide whether to approve a minor variance application. The committee will be presented with the details and background to the minor variance and application and will receive comments from the public and agencies before committee decision is made. Matt, could you give us the details of any public notice?
Thank you. So notice of public hearing was posted in the municipal office and was sent by mail to the assessed owners within 60 meters of the property, subject to the minor variance application this evening. And to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application tonight. The notices were sent on March 6, 2026, being over 10 days prior to this evening's meeting. Included with each notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and a key map showing the location of the subject property.
Thank you. I now declare this public hearing to deal with application number A/02/26SC, Keith and Christine Bona. The Director of Planning will advise of the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and provide any other information that is relevant to the application.
Thank you. So the subject property is zoned waterfront residential under the Municipality of St. Charles zoning bylaw, which is 2014-26. And specifically, we're here tonight dealing with policy 7.7.2, which permits a lot coverage of 15%. So the lot area right now as it stands is 9,319.44 square feet. The existing development on the property includes a camp, attached front yard decks, a bunkie with 2 decks, 2 rear yard sheds, resulting in a total existing lot coverage of 2,033 square feet, 0.71, or 21.8%. So that's basically looking at all the existing structures if you were to walk on the property today and calculate the square footage and divide it by the square footage of the lot that exists today. It comes out to 21.8%. So the proposal includes the removal of the rear yard shed, which is 99.5 square feet. There's an attached shed that encroaches on neighboring property to the west, which is 49.1 square feet. The bunkie with the 2 decks, removal of the rear yard. And so the bunkie itself is 364 square feet, 0.11. And the entrance to the house, which is 98.15 square feet. So if you combine the removal of those existing structures, it comes out to 610.86 square feet to be removed from the site. To give you a little bit of context, I did retain Adrian Bortolucci, which is Ontario Land Surveyor. So Adrian prepared the existing structures in relation to the property. So he's a licensed surveyor. So this is all like, I know it's to the decimal, but it's meaningful in terms of the lot coverage when we're looking at this for the committee purposes. So that was all calculated through Adrian. He kind of provided that information through Eve and Keith. And so that's how I got all these details in terms of the breakdown of these structures that are on the property. So following the removal, so removing those structures and then also considering the new addition. So the new addition is 40 feet by 19 and a half. So it is 780 square feet is being proposed. So considering the removal of the structures and the construction of the addition, total lot coverage would be 2,202.8 square feet or 23.6%. So the existing lot coverage today is 21.8%, and the proposed represents a net increase of approximately 1.8%. So in terms of the official plan for committee purposes, when we're here for Committee of Adjustment, we look at the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and those are: 1, is it minor? 2, is it desirable for the appropriate development for the use of land, building, or structure? 3, does it maintain the general intent of the purpose of the zoning bylaw? And lastly, does it maintain the general intent of the purpose of the official plan? So the evaluation for the 4 tests, so I kind of summarized everything. So the subject property is waterfront policy area in the official plan. The property is zoned waterfront residential in the zoning bylaw. And basically the subject property has a lot area, like we noted, 9,319.44 square feet, and it's considered legal non-compliant with respect to the lot area and the lot frontage, as the current waterfront residential zone requires a minimum lot area of 0.8 hectares and 60 meters of water frontage. So the existing development on the property includes, as I noted, those structures, and the existing lot coverage. So while MPAC currently assesses only, so just to give a breakdown, like we also look at MPAC too, it currently only assesses the camp, 1 shed, and a carport. So I subsequently conducted a site visit with the owners so I can understand what is actually on the property. Sometimes MPAC has incorrect information, so that's why I had a site visit with the owners on January 22nd, 2026. And basically that confirmed what structures were on the site as part of this process. So as the part of the proposal, the owners are willing to remove those several structures: the rear yard shed, the attached shed, the bunkie with the 2 decks, and the entrance. So the owners are in agreement in that. I've talked to Andrea Trini about that as well. And basically, they're looking at doing a 1-story addition measuring 40 by 19.5. So following the demolition of the existing structures and construction of the addition, the total coverage would be that 23.6%. And legally, the legality of the existing structures is outside of the scope of the planning evaluation. However, the proposal results in a net improvement of the property by removing several accessory structures and consolidating built form into a single addition that continues to, or existing 1-story camp structure and roof line. So, like, again, between what was built and what did obtain building permits at the time, looked at the perspective of how they're looking at improving the property today, and that they're in talks with Andrea Trini. And just to give everybody a little bit of context, they bought the property this past year. So they weren't the current owners previously with all this, whether permits were obtained or not for the property. So they want to make things right moving forward. So they reached out to the building and planning department to do so as part of this process. So that's where we're looking at this as an overview. So the surrounding shoreline area is characterized by a cluster of approximately, like, again, if you look at aerial imagery here, you're going to see 5 to 6 waterfront lots that are similarly undersized significantly. They are legal non-complying with comparable lot areas and waterfront frontage. So the proposed addition is modest in scale and in height, and is not expected to create a negative impact on the adjacent property, which is 610 Lake Road and 620 Lake Road. Based on the above analysis, the requested variance is considered minor desirable for the appropriate development of land, maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and maintains the general intent of the official plan. Therefore, can be supported as it conforms to the official plan. So, jumping into the zoning, I won't talk to it too much. It's all the information was like kind of highlighted in the official plan section, the 4 tests. It's a little bit of repetitive information from the zoning, but just to touch on the zoning, why we're here this evening is that the property does permit a single-family home, which is existing, and it does permit accessory structures. It's just determining to what extent that lot coverage is deemed reasonable and appropriate for the waterfront property. And like I said, I've looked at it. Hey, 15% is the requirement. There was existing 21.8. There are some things that did not obtain building permits over time, and it's proven by the assessment of impact. So then they got Adrian Bortolucci to highlight everything that's on the property, and then we worked together to find some sort of like kind of flexibility solution to make things right and have the right approvals in place, which now comes to 23.6, or a net increase of 1.8%. So no new land use is proposed. This is strictly just for lot coverage variance for the committee this evening. And as part of this proposal, we also submitted to staff here at St. Charles, and they had no concerns. So the clerk, CAO had no concerns. Fire department, public works, no concerns. Building department just said obviously a building permit will be required for demolishing all the buildings, or like and for building as well. And bylaw didn't have any concerns. And obviously there'll be a lot of notifications because it's so dense in the area. So when we sent out the 60 meters of notice of application to everybody, we didn't get any objections or concerns from the neighbors in that cluster of waterfront properties, just to give you a little bit of context on that. So no concerns or objections there. So overall, like I said earlier, it conforms to the 4 tests under the Planning Act.
Thank you very much, Mr. Does the applicant have any presentation that he or she wishes to make?
Apparently I do.
Yeah, if you have something to say, yeah.
Yeah, the reason for all of this is because my parents have lived in the community for years. I don't want to say how old I am, but they bought the property when I was 5, where they live now, and it's been well over 45 years, so let's go with that. But as they are getting a little bit older, it's becoming very difficult for them to maintain their property. So the goal of our purchase, which was done, like Matthew had mentioned, we want to retire there eventually, but also provide an addition so my parents can stay in the community as long as they possibly can. And so we're trying to increase the ability, the size of the camp, so that we can have a bedroom and a separate little area for them. Not quite a granny flat, but that kind of situation, so that they would be able to live there as long as they possibly can. Also, because I'm a registered nurse, I'm wanting to keep them close by, and I get emotional, sorry. I do want to take care of them as long.
Okay.
Sorry. Why'd you make me talk? Especially with what you can see is going on in healthcare. I don't want them in facilities. I don't want them being taken care outside of their home if I possibly can. So part of the goal is, if I can ever retire, to stay at home as much as possible, offer them whatever they need. That's pretty much the reason for all of this.
Thank you very much.
As the father, we've been here 48 years. St. Charles has been our community for 48 years. My wife Yvette has taught in this community, and we would like to stay not 48 years, but another 10 at least.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from other members of the public?
No question for myself.
No? Okay. That was the public, but now we're moving on. Now to council. Any questions to anybody that's given
No,
comments?
no question for myself. I'm in agreement with their recommendation, and good luck on your future construction.
All right. Councillor Loftus, any comments?
Oh, I'm in total agreement, and having an elderly father in this community also, I mean, that's what daughters and sons have to do, is take care of their elderly parents, which
My
is
turn.
great.
They did us.
Yeah, that's right.
My turn.
Thank you very much. Councillor Putzi, any questions?
No questions. I'm in agreement with the recommended resolution. I was one of those students back in the day at the school here, so thank you very much for everything you've done for the community, so.
You're old.
All right. Therefore, can we have a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Councillor Loftus, Councillor Putzi?
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor Patsy, be it resolved that application A/02/26/SC by Keith and Christine Bona be approved and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared.
All those in favor? Carried. Please be advised that a specific person, public body, or registered owner may appeal the decision on the Ontario Tribunal by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk of the municipality of St. Charles. The notice of appeal must set out the reasons for the appeal and must be accompanied by the required fee, which is prescribed under the Ontario Land Tribunal Act of 2017. This fee should be made payable to the Ministry of Finance, and comments will be treated as public record and given out upon request. So still have a little bit of time, but Matt will be advising you when we're at the end of this process. All right, thank you very much. Next, I now declare a public hearing to deal with application A/03/26SC. Greg and Lisa Turner, the Director of Planning, will advise the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and provide any other information that is relevant.
Thank you. So the Sudbury East Planning Board is in receipt of a minor variance affecting the property municipally known as 25 Osprey Court, municipality of St. Charles, with frontage on the west arm of Lake Nipissing. So this evening we have Greg and Lisa Turner joining us on virtually this evening. So they're the owners of the subject property. And the purpose of the application for themselves is to permit the construction of a screened sunroom addition to the existing cottage, as well as a new attached deck. So the relief this evening for the committee is with respect to the waterfront residential zone as well. This time the section is 7.7.2 B as in Bob, I as in Irene, which requires a minimum setback of 20 meters from the high water level. So the applicant is proposing a reduced setback of 11 meters. So this particular site, the existing cottage is also a legal non-complying structure with respect to the required shoreline setback. So the portions of the dwelling are currently located, so the home is located 14.3 meters from the high water mark with an existing deck at 12.5 meters. So what they're looking at doing is the proposed development represents a modest expansion of the existing structure and will be integrated with the current home or current seasonal dwelling that they have. And the majority of the addition aligns with the established development envelope, meaning like the portion of the proposed deck will extend 1.5 meters further into the high water mark, so closer to the shoreline. And that's just over 5 feet, resulting in the proposed setback to be 11 meters. So with respect to the 4 tests, with respect to the official plan, so the waterfront designation permits water-oriented residential uses, including single detached dwellings. Exactly what's on this particular site is an existing single-family dwelling unit. The subject property has historically been used as seasonal residential dwelling, which is consistent with these permissions. The policy also, development talks about waterfront areas must occur in a responsible manner that protects, so the key here is to protect the shoreline natural heritage features. While 20-meter setback from a high water mark is generally required, the official plan explicitly contemplates reductions to the setback through our process, why we're here tonight for minor variances. So the existing cottage, like I said about the existing non-compliant setback of 4.3 meters from the high water mark, with the existing deck being 12.5 meters. So I can factor all those things in, so the relief is being 1.5 meters closer. So given that the development is an addition to an existing legal non-compliant structure, the majority of the shoreline buffer is already occupied by the existing dwelling, meaning like the camp itself is within that setback. It's been like that. So that's another factor. in this particular case, the lot is very, very large. It's 2.29 acres, and it has frontage of approximately 80 meters along the west lake of Nipissing. So, and the shoreline functions will continue to be maintained. So there's not going to be much alteration or an impact for that small alteration in the front there, considering the whole shoreline and factoring that in. So for those reasons, the proposal is consistent with the intent of protecting the waterfront character and ecological function in the OP. With respect to the zoning bylaw, although relief is requested, I know the number looks big on paper from 20 meters to 11 meters. The proposal represents only a minor extension of that existing legal non-compliant condition with those facts that I provided earlier. So the addition is, again, like I said, modest in scale, does not introduce new impacts beyond those already established by the existing camp. And furthermore, the official plan anticipates that such reductions may be considered through this process. As such, the proposal maintains the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Is it desirable? Basically, it is desirable because the proposed screen sunroom and deck represent a reasonable and functional improvement to the existing cottage, enhancing its usability while maintaining compatibility with the surrounding waterfront residential character. So Osprey Court, there's again 5 or 6. That was an extension years ago. So there's a turnaround, and they're all waterfront residential properties in that area. So characteristically, site suitability, they're all within that same context and use. And so it remains the structure being the sunscreen. I can't pronounce my word this evening, but the sunroom is subordinate to the existing dwelling, meaning that it's still relatively small and with respect to the existing structure and scale of the existing camp. Reflects typical waterfront accessory additions. So you see a lot of these types of additions, sunrooms and decks with existing camps. And utilizes already a disturbed portion. So what they're looking at doing is they're going to demolish the existing deck, and they're going to enlarge the deck on the front facade of the camp, while still doing to the east side an addition, which is that sunroom. So it's already going to be disturbed, so there's no negative impact. They're just cleaning up, improving it. So that's the perspective there. And in context, it's in minor in nature. Again, 20 meters to 11 meters, but understanding the facts of the situation this evening is you have to also factor in the legal non-compliant status, and that increase or further encroachment is technically 1.5 meters, is why they're here tonight in front of committee for that. It's going to be 473 square feet. That's what I calculated based on the proposed plans. They also give you some context of the scale or size that they're looking at doing here for the portion of the addition only. That will be to the existing camp. So the existing dwelling is already located within the setback area. The proposed addition does not substantially alter the established relationship between the structure and the shoreline. Given the large lot size, extensive frontage, and minimal additional encroachment, the proposal will not result in a negative or adverse related privacy views, drainage, or shoreline stability. Therefore, it can be considered that the proposal meets all 4 tests of the minor variance this evening for the Cmt of Adjustment. In terms of agency review, the CAO and the clerk had no concerns. Public Works Superintendent had no issues from roads. Fire Department had no issues from fire. Bylaw Department had no issues from an enforcement perspective, and the Chief Building Official said no issues. Again, just reiterating that a building permit has been applied for the property. And with respect to the Osprey community, we didn't receive any objections or concerns from the neighbors in that pocket in that community. So no concerns there. And with that said, I'll go back to the committee.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Dumont. Are there anything that the applicants would like to add?
We've been coming up since our friends bought the old Welcome Lodge, so it's now Muskie Island View. I've taken my boys fishing there for 10, 12 years since they had it. And we've been going up since then, and we had the opportunity to buy the property last year, and we love it. We just want to make it usable. Basically, it's an old camp, and we just want to replace the old and with something new, and upstairs much as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any questions from other members of the public? No? Any questions from council?
None for myself. I'm in agreement with the recommendation.
All right, Councillor Loftus?
I'm also in agreement with the recommendation.
All right, Councillor Potier?
Yeah, no comments. I'm also in agreement with the recommended resolution.
All right, therefore, can I have a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Councillor Potier, Councillor Framboise.
Moved by Councillor Pelletier and seconded by Councillor Laframboise, be it resolved that application A/03/26/SC by Greg and Lisa Turner be approved and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared.
All those in favor? Carried. Please be advised that a specific person, public body, or registered owner may appeal the decision on the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk of the municipality of St. Charles. The notice of appeal must set out the reasons of the appeal and must be accompanied by the required fee which is prescribed under the Ontario Land Tribunal Act 2017. This fee should be made payable to the Ministry of Finance. All comments will be treated as public record and given out upon request. So same thing, you have a little bit of time to wait, but everything's looking good. Thank you very much. Can I have therefore a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Councillor Loftus, Councillor Potier?
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor Pelletier, be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of April 14, 2026 be adjourned at 6:27 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried. Meeting is adjourned.